So without further ado, I want to introduce our next panel for today. And so I want to bring onto the screen Krista, Tamara, Andrea, and Matt as we talk about changing how we manage change as CSMs as our change champions. And so anybody in customer success is probably navigating change with their customers, right? You purchase technology, you're inherently going to need to do something different than you've done before, and change management is so critical. So thrilled for today's panel conversation around how we help our customers navigate that change.
Krista and team, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Y'all look great. Love the smiles.
Hi all.
Thanks for joining us. We're really excited for this panel discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave and Christy.
You bet.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited for this next panel. And as Christy stated, this panel is all about how CSMs truly are change champions, and how as CSMs, that's really one of our top roles and responsibilities, is to help our clients navigate change and to help them navigate change within their organizations. So today I am joined by three amazing customer success professionals, and I'm so excited to have them in this conversation today and to share some of their tips and their feedback and just everything that they've experienced as CSMs and experiencing change with their clients. So just some quick introductions, and then we will jump right in. So I have Tamara Bruskowski, who is a senior CSM with Bizarre Voice. We have Matt Forrester, who is a customer success manager with Attract AI, and then Andrea King, who is a customer success manager with Carbine. And we are the global team. We are everywhere. Matt is up in the middle of the night, had a couple cups of coffee already. We're really excited to be here, today, tomorrow, whatever day it is for everyone, and just excited to have the three of you joining us today. So just a quick reminder to everyone watching, we do have our live chat going, and the rest of our amazing team here is capturing any questions you have. So please drop them in the chat for our panelists. We'll reserve about 10 minutes at the end to answer those questions. And we will go ahead and get started. Oh, well, actually, I guess I can introduce myself and then we'll get started. So I'm Krista Roberts, and I'm a senior CSM here at Client Success. And this is, as everyone knows, our second CSM Summit. The first one last year happened within my first 2 weeks of joining the company. And so super excited to be on this side of it, putting this event together for the team. So awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. So first, we're going to start and, just really kind of open it up to everyone here. How are CSMs change champions? Tamara, you want to get us kicked off on this one?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to say that I loved the title Change Champions, and I hope it's here to stay. But to answer your question, Krista, I feel that CSMs are in a unique position to be called change champions because we're perfectly positioned within companies to support, guide, and champion change. And I love an analogy, so I'll use one now. But imagine a cobweb and the CSM placed in the middle. We have access to every single department within the organization, whether it be technical support, sales, marketing, product, or even leadership. So we speak practically to everyone. And we also have the product knowledge, the business acumen, access to a plethora of data points, best-in-class examples, and most importantly, a direct line to the client. And we are the owners of our client portfolios. We sit within our remit. We have access to and knowledge of the entire programs. So we understand program health, adoption, upsell opportunities. And it's also worth saying that ever since the digital world has progressed over the past 2-3 years, it's amazing to see how important the CSM role has become, and that leadership across the globe are invested in supporting CS departments in a way like never before. So in my view, we are in a very good position to support change and to take the lead. And we don't necessarily have an ulterior motive. We're not sales with sales targets. We actually have a genuine interest in the client relationship that we build. And that puts us in a perfect position. We look to drive change and to move the needle in a way that will benefit both our company as we look into keeping retention high, and clients as we help them reach their goals. What we can't underestimate, though, is that change management is super hard. People are creatures of habit. Change comes in many different forms. And there's a whole book about this called Atomic Habits. I'm not sure if you've read that before, but our EMEA CS leader recommended it recently. But that's a whole different topic in itself. So with the right attitude and mindset, I think with the resources that we have available to us today, I firmly believe that we can drive change as change champions.
I love what Tamara said about how, we don't have the same motivations as sales. As a CSM, sometimes we have to sell the value of the product for our company in a way that doesn't involve dollars and cents. And we have to do that by using the relationships and the influence that we've cultivated. And, that's how we make change less scary. And we champion it in a way that makes our customer comfortable with following us. So you're absolutely right. Even though we're not motivated by the money, we're still selling the value. And that's what makes us change champions.
Wow, this panel's off to a pretty good start. Hey, I think everyone's raised some, very important and very valid points there. I really like the idea of a customer success manager being in a cobweb and liaising with different departments and relying on, relationships to influence and really be a driving force for change. I think that's definitely true. As customer success managers, we're armed with such a unique knowledge bank. So we can basically sit down with our customers and go, hey, this is what we need to be doing to facilitate change and for you to achieve your goals and outcomes. For me as well, I think another important point, which probably expands on what Tamara was saying as well, we're also, we're change champions internally. We're, as CSMs and client-facing individuals, we're like constantly on the front line having conversations with our customers, right? Like we're understanding what their pain points are, what their goals are, where they want to end up with implementing and using our products. So that really does put us in a unique and powerful position to then go, like a cobweb, I guess, to go and liaise with product and with development and marketing and basically enhance our product offering and build new features that overcome bottlenecks for our users, but also progress them towards the dream state for them, which is achieving their outcome and using us more and expanding and growing accounts. So I totally agree with what's been said so far. We're definitely change champions externally for our customers, but we're also change champions internally for our own business and for our own product. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact, and it's quite powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a little note in the chat. Everyone is loving the cobweb analogy for sure. So I think that was perfect. I mean, you definitely, hit it right on the target there that, that's exactly what we're doing, and I think, I've heard people say, like CSMs or the quarterback of, for like doing sport analogies, we're really the center of, everything that's happening both internally with the cross-functional teams that we're working with to support our clients, but also for our clients as well, just like they are, we're really helping to help facilitate, like Matt said, what are the goals? What are we looking to do? And here's how we're going to navigate through this change. And how are we going to get others involved and make sure that we all are kind of, staying on the same road and going towards that same goal. And, to go back to, the previous panel on goals. So, I think that's huge, but I think, even the point about, like, we're not really, selling, but we are selling value. And so I think that, regardless of, the type of role you're in any type of an organization that you have clients and you have customers, which is pretty much anything, you're selling at some point. I mean, you're selling, you're selling your value, you're selling what you can provide. And then also to be able to sell the value of successfully managing change. And I just think it's so big as customer success managers, and a skill that it's hard to really perfect. And so it's something that, I'm excited to just continue to hear more about that from the three of you. So wonderful. So, kind of just leading into kind of how, we navigate change with our clients and kind of what we're working in traditional, SaaS or technology teams that we're working with. So, Christy had mentioned in the intro that, really anyone purchasing any type of technology, they're looking to do something different. So they're looking to either replace a platform or a piece of software they already have, or this is brand new. And so this is going to be big. This is going to be a change regardless of if it's new or if it's replacing. So, I'd love to hear, we'll kick it off with Tamara again. How do you introduce the concept of change management with your customers?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and quite a broad one as well. So I'll try to piece it out to make it a bit comprehensive. But first of all, change is inevitable. It's part of evolution as it brings us from one status quo to another. And I believe that it's in our human DNA to constantly want to drive change, right? Like from a business point of view, we constantly think about what's next. Like what are we forecasting for in the next 12 months? How are we currently performing? What is the competition doing? What are the trends saying? We need to keep up to date all the time. So to put it into context, give you an example, we'll take John, who's head of marketing, comes out of a meeting with other execs, and he looks into his current KPIs, looks into trends and competitors, and shops around for products that could help him further to drive the KPIs that he wants to see in the results. And so he buys product X, passes it on to his team. The marketing team now sit there with another deliverable, and the expectation here is now they need to adopt and consume the product. But the problem is that they have zero context. They don't know what to do with the product. So it's the CSM's job to introduce and address this topic, to give them context behind the why, to educate the client, to enable them to train the clients to really understand and see the value behind this change. And your job essentially is to ultimately help them connect the dots, which is how you allow the client to understand the why for the change. And that will then support them to find motivation to then drive time and effort towards building value. But then CSMs then ask themselves, how does this happen? How do we make this happen? And I've thought about 4 key parts of the process, and I love process. So I thought about discovery, partnering, communicating value, and being authentic. So these 4 pieces, discovery is a crucial first step that will allow you to understand your client better. What are their needs? Are there any barriers that they're facing? How can you help? And be understanding. Number 2, partnering with them on a level where they feel they can trust you will allow for a more open dialogue. That will help you with the discovery if they feel that they can, look to you as an expert and a friend. Communicating value, guiding them towards connecting the dots between state A, where they are, and state B, where they want to be. And finally, point 4, being authentic. I think everyone will agree that people like to work with people they like. So the energy you bring to the room, the enthusiasm, and the fact that if you show that you care about them and the project, those are all key elements in my eyes. So to come back to your question, Krista, I believe that addressing change with enthusiasm, finding a connection with your client, and partnering with them to work on an exciting project will make this adoption phase a worthwhile experience, and hopefully with hopefully with good tangible results at the end.
Love it. Yeah. Andrea, how about you? What do you have to add to that?
I love the idea of having processes as well. So those 4 key concepts, we talked about them earlier and I took notes on them because I definitely want to start implementing them myself. For me, on a more organic level, introducing the concept of change, it always begins with demonstrating the value. Mm-hmm. And, it's a known fact that people are much less resistant to change when the change is kind of their idea to begin with. So demonstrating the value of the product or the process or the service, it allows for the customer to connect with it. Mm-hmm. And that's how you drive buy-in. Because once somebody believes in what you're doing and they're able to connect with the mission behind what you're doing, they're going to champion the change for you as well. Then you get to focus more on walking them through the change process rather than trying to sell them on it at each step of the process. As Tamara mentioned earlier, oftentimes, the decisions are made on that executive level without much input from the actual users. And so one of the things that I've adopted is in those beginning stages, when I'm in the process of connecting and making those relationships, or if it's a relationship that I already had that I'm now, bridging the gap with my company and the person or the company that I have a relationship with, I like to advise them on things that they can do to help build that trust, like hold focus groups. Get a cross-section of your users together and brief them on the change and get their input on what they would like to see, how they would like to see it utilized. Let them use the product. When you allow them to do those things and they get comfortable with the idea of it, and then they start to become those early adopters and it becomes their idea, they will absolutely champion it for you. So it makes that introduction to the change a lot easier.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful points. It's like that, what's in it for me? Why do I need to do this? What am I going to get out of it? But that what's in it for me, and then really, be like, again, that making it their idea. And it is their idea, whether they weren't the one that brought this new technology on board, their leadership team did, and now they're being tasked with implementing and rolling it out. So really kind of helping to turn the tables and really build that true champion. It's awesome. Matt, I thought you had a couple great points on this and kind of how you like to, really kind of help, change with, helping your clients navigate through change.
Yeah. So again, it's quite an interesting question. And like how, in terms of how we set the stage for change as well. So I think it was mentioned earlier, humans, we don't always take so quickly to change, right? We're often a little bit reluctant or hesitant. It doesn't feel normal. We want to have the status quo. So, and I'm sure all of us as customer success managers and professionals, we've all had that experience where a user is a little bit pessimistic about using like a new product or a new tool. So I actually had this experience quite recently where, again, to echo what my co-panelists have been saying, the executive sponsors signed off on a deal. We're super happy. Our sales team absolutely killed it. And then it was handballed over to the key user. Now, the key user, they already had a lot of tools at their disposal, and in their eyes, they were performing quite well already. So this was just another thing that they had to be managing, right? So it was flagged quite early to us that, hey, like this person may be a little bit reluctant to the change process. So how do you change that, right? So like, how do you go about facilitating the change? And for us, a strategy that worked very, very, very well and proved to be quite effective was taking a data-driven approach. So as customer success managers, we know what our high-performing, our well-educated customers are doing day in, day out on platform to achieve their goals, right? So we were then able to look at like how many times our high-performing customers were logging in, what features they were using, how often they were actioning things on platform. And off the back of that, we were basically able to take that data, hold the hand of our customer who was a little bit reluctant, and basically set milestones in place at certain timeframes. And naturally, as that occurred, so like a success plan or an account plan, as that occurred and we were achieving milestones at week 1, at week 2, at month 3, they started to see the change and the progress happening for themselves. So yeah, I think to summarize it, there's almost 3 key pillars there when we're thinking about setting the stage for change or implementing a new tool for someone who may be a little bit reluctant or hesitant. Basically, they are, for us, taking a data-driven approach, effectively communicating what the journey is going to look like and implementing milestones, and yeah, communicating that effectively, like talking to them about what it's going to look like. And again, we hear the words trusted advisor. We really are that. We're there to work with them so closely in the beginning and hold their hand and create an awesome customer experience. So yeah, that's a strategy that's proven quite effective for us and our business over time.
I love that.
Point. If I can chime in, I think also showing, so doing everything that Matt said, but then also showing what success looks like. What does good look like, so that they have an idea, and then basically decide whether it's worth going through all of that effort and time. Because it's not nice to hear, but we're usually just 2% of the client's list of agenda. So lots of priorities, and they basically need to hear from you, what is the value you will drive and how can you make this happen? And if it's realistic and they trust you, then you'll be on, top 3 priority list.
Absolutely.
Andrea, what do you have to add to that?
When Tamara said, about what does success look like for them, it brought me back to when I did my CSM certification training with Success Hacker. And they posed a question, is the success canvas just an internal document? And at the time, we were, there was a mixed answers, but the answer is no, it's not. Your customers should always be aware and have input on what success looks like for them. What is the plan for success and how do you reach it? And what are the benchmarks at each step of the way that demonstrates, again, that value demonstrates how we are helping them to be successful. So I think that's definitely a huge part of the change management process, is stopping to say, hey, we reached this benchmark and I want to make sure this still aligns with what you deemed as successful for you. Good. Okay, now let's set the stage for the next benchmark. What else is going to help you to be successful? Because again, it's about showing that value, and that's how we as CSMs help them to see the value that our company brings to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, that's like really both, all of you have really, had said it, but I think that's something that I always really push, when we're working with our clients and, with our team here is, when you talk to clients about goals and what does success look like, it's really easy for us to want to push like what our goals are and what success looks like to us and the usage of our product and our services and our tools. But at the end of the day, it's what is the client paying for? What are they looking to achieve? And how is partnering with us going to help their overall business goals and their business outcomes? So what does success look like to the client? You start that off right in that initial partnership kickoff or an alignment meeting, if there's a transition, whatever the case may be, of, really flipping the turning the table. And a lot of times clients don't hear that from other vendors. They're used to just hearing, okay, we want you to hit, this many logins and do this and do that. Yes, that's great. But if it doesn't mean anything to the client, then why are we targeting for that? So, really shifting and helping them to see what is success for them, setting those milestones, as Matt said, really kind of working out that success plan of navigating through the change. That's going to really help set the stage for a successful change management process and implementation of a new tool and really any new initiative that your client's working on. So wonderful points there. So we've been, kind of all positive so far of, okay, here's some great things that we can do to set the stage and really kind of help prep our clients for change and even others internally. But, we know sometimes things don't always work like we planned. And we have to learn from things that, have kind of challenged us. So, Andrea, I'd love to hear a little bit about, and kind of what you've seen in the area of change management when it comes to maybe some mistakes that you've either experienced or that you've seen others make in this area.
Yeah, there are a number of mistakes that are unfortunately made too often during the change process. As we all know, leadership plays such a huge role in change management and setting the stage and just, making sure that the implementation process goes well. Leadership also has the ability to negatively impact that change from the beginning. And that's by having a faulty implementation approach. I've experienced a leader, for example, who decided that in effective 2 weeks, the employees were going to go to a schedule change where they were changing from a 4 10-hour work week to 5 8s. And they didn't seek out any input from the floor, from the personnel. And, while it may seem like that's a minor change, it certainly wasn't to the employees. And this leader demonstrated little to no regard for the significant impact that this change would have on the employees. And they didn't recognize that, it would ultimately impact the operations of the business. And so that's just an example to say that, it's vital that you gain some sort of buy-in from your employees before implementing change, whenever appropriate. Obviously, there are times when decisions have to be made and you don't have the opportunity to gain that buy-in. But I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see is back to all of the things that we talked about previous, not setting the stage properly, not having that implementation approach from the beginning, not showing transparency, having benchmarks that and a plan that your employees can see for how we're going to navigate this change. And so bringing it back to how CSMs are change champions, we have a window of opportunity at the beginning of any change implementation process to kind of show them the roadmap, to say, these are the things that, we recommend that you do. These are the things that you can do to help your employees embrace what is about to happen. Mm-hmm. Because change is scary. There are a lot of reasons that people resist change. And a lot of them may not seem rational to us, fear of the unknown and a departure from the current state. Those things, when you're the decision maker, they don't necessarily seem like it's not rational. Like the people will be fine, but it's real to the people that are about to experience this change. And so if we don't acknowledge that those fears, those reasons for resistance or resisting are real, we're going to be off to a bad start as leaders that are managing change or implementing change. So my biggest piece of advice when implementing change and trying to avoid mistakes is have a implementation approach, be transparent about that approach, what the plan is, and involve your people every step of the way that you can, so that everybody's on the same page when it comes to what's about to happen when change is taking place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love all those points. Like 100% agree with everything. I think the leadership piece is crucial. And like you said, there's some things that, have to be made, behind closed doors, but when it's something that big, you really do need to involve other stakeholders, and especially the individuals at the end that are going to be really affected by that big change. So absolutely. Matt, how about you? What have you seen kind of in the areas of mistakes when it's come to trying to implement change, and either that you've experienced or maybe have seen other your clients navigate through?
Yeah, good question. For me, the biggest one is just not managing expectations from pre-sales, implementation, throughout the journey, right? So such a common mistake, and don't get me wrong, I love our sales team. We have a really unique and strong strategic partnership, but occasionally what can happen is that a executive sponsor or a key user has these expectations on what it's going to look like at a certain point, and sometimes that might not always be realistic. And then as customer success managers, we're playing catch up. We're reacting to things, and we don't necessarily want to be doing that. We can do that. But I think, for me, the most common mistake that we see is, not managing expectations from the beginning in pre-sales, and then as we implement the product. So yeah, echo exactly what Andrea was saying. Leadership is critical, executive sponsorship, and having the backing and support of that is critical, because if we get that right, and as customer success managers, we all know the importance of being involved in the pre-sales process. If we get that right, then there's less chance for us to be misaligned in expectations, and we can manage it effectively. So yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice for me, and the mistakes we've seen, is you really want to be managing expectations and getting involved in the pre-sales process quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are all wonderful points. And I agree. And I think I don't know, I feel like you all probably agree, like that's kind of the common thing. I feel like a lot of, CSPs say is, it's that, expectations from the sales process. And again, we all love our sales teams. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have our sales teams. We love you all so much. But there's different roles, different responsibilities, different expectations in the roles between, our account executives, our sales reps, and what CSMs do. And so, there's, definitely having, some great alignment is key to success, but also knowing that, there's still going to be opportunities that, we're going to need to help kind of navigate through the change. And that's where we pick things up and help lead our clients through that. So wonderful. Well, we're going to jump into our Q&A here in just a few seconds. But I did just one last question I was going to ask, and kind of already talked about it a little bit, was really the role of leadership and supporting change management. So I know, Andrea had, some amazing, your example and kind of input on that was awesome. And same for Matt, but we'll love to hear just a little bit from you, Tamara, and really, how do you feel leadership, really plays a role in supporting change management?
Well, I think it's extremely important. I think they decide and set the platform for the change, and it can be good or it can be bad. And as both Matt and Andrea have alluded to it earlier, I think it's all about transparency, about communication, about process, ensuring that people are being respected in a way that they understand what the process looks like, what is going on, because it's completely understandable that change happens. It's completely normal, but it's about how you go about it. And I think the ideal scenario would be for the leadership team to trickle down that information from top to bottom, so that every single leader, every team leader understands what's going on and can then communicate that to the relevant departments. And in addition to this, for CSMs especially, I think it's really important because we are client facing. So it's only fair to us to understand what is going on, because we then are not left to look stupid if the client ever asks what is going on, and we're like, I have no idea. As we speak to the client on a daily basis, we need to know what's going on. And basically having that in place will allow for change to happen naturally and also positively.
Yep. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple of questions that some of our awesome viewers have sent over. So let's see here. So, okay, this is a great one. And so kind of alludes a little, kind of tags off what we just talked about. So Santiago asked, any good tips on how to create urgency for the change? So, creating buy-in to make the change now, and not, in an elusive tentative future. So, Matt, do you have I'll start with you, what tips do you have, to kind of help, your clients or, others that you've worked with, and really kind of to create that urgency for the change?
Great question. To be honest, I would, and this is where that strategic partnership with sales comes into it through the handoff, right? So if we're thinking about creating urgency so they adopt really effectively and really quickly, lean on the goals that have been set through the implementation process. So they bought our product for a reason, right? So there is urgency. They want change pretty quickly. So yeah, I think understanding what the critical event is and understanding why they bought the product in the first place. And then as we kind of implement the product, we can fall back on that critical event or the reason why they bought the product in the first place and go, hey, your goal is over here. We need to get there pretty quickly. We're maybe not on track, or we maybe haven't implemented quite well just yet. This is our plan of attack to tweak the course a little bit so we can get you back on track and accelerate towards your goals. So yeah, to answer the question, just really fall back on why they bought it in the first place and use that critical event to really accelerate them towards change and to get the buy-in pretty quickly would be my advice.
I love that. I think also it's important to show them the success. So my company, Carbine, we're in the public safety space and we provide life-saving technology to 911 centers. And for us, one of the ways that we try to show the urgency, drive the adoption is by showing them the success stories, capturing the success stories, and then showing it back to them. Like, look, this is what your 911 call taker was able to achieve. This is how they helped save someone's life by using this solution. So showing them how they were successful in using it helps them to first spread the word. They become champions, change champions, and they start to spread that word that amongst their peers. And it helps to show how we're helping them meet their KPIs as well. So I think it always goes back to demonstrating that value for me, but showing them their success, capturing the success story and giving it back to them.
That's such a perfect summary. I would just add, probably speaking to the right people will help that. If you speak to someone who's pretty junior, they won't see it because they're quite tunnel visioned with, oh, you know, we need to hit this target, but they don't see the overall big picture. So if you speak to the executive, they are more likely to drive the change within the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, yeah, by getting back to who are the right people, getting that buy-in, because that's really where that, partnership and that true alignment is going to come in. So Drew would like to know, how do you handle course correction when a highly anticipated change doesn't produce the right outcomes? Andrea.
I think it's important to adapt and overcome and pivot, first of all. So when you are facing that, it's being transparent is the first and most important thing. Mm-hmm. Having those direct conversations, sitting down with your customer. Well, first talking about it internally. My team is an amazing team, and we sit and kind of troubleshoot with each other all the time. Have you ever experienced, what do I do when this situation happened? So get those collaborative minds together to come up with a solution that you want to present, because we always want to be solutions oriented, especially when going into a customer interaction. So then once you do go into that customer interaction, don't, shy around the issue. You've got to address the fact that whatever we anticipated happening is not happening. And let's figure out together how we get back to our intended goal and our intended outcome. Present your solutions, being solution oriented, help them come to that solution together. And then set the success canvas again. This is our new goal. This is how we're going to achieve it, and follow up at each benchmark as well. So, but it's important first to adapt, overcome, and pivot.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Chris. I really like that answer, to be honest. I was thinking along the same lines, particularly around presenting solutions and putting in like new goals or new success markers. So a tool that we leverage is we actually go back and revise our success plans or our account plans when we feel like we're not on track to achieve the goals that they want to achieve, right? So actually I have to give a bit of a shout out to a colleague of mine, Amber. She's probably on this call. This was her lovely work. So we created a process where we could look at data and go, hey, they're not on track at the moment. Let's actually go back and look at the success plan and go, hey, these are the things we're doing well. These are the things we aren't doing. And then we come up with a solution and be quite proactive with that going into the next customer call to go, hey, yeah, we're not on track. Let's tweak it a little bit. This is our solution. These are the things we're going to be doing. These are the things or the behaviors we need you to do as a user. And then basically there's a mutual agreement and you can kind of tweak towards where you do want to start going. Yeah, I don't know if Tamara, you've got anything you want to add to it?
I think it's all about having a plan. And things don't work out as planned. That's just reality. And I think being transparent and being a partner in this whole relationship helps, because you can be, you can just tell them as is. Results haven't driven, we haven't attained the results that we have, hoped for. However, let's look into alternative B and look into how that works. And if they trust you and if there is a partnership, there is no reason for them to say no to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that, it's what they say, the best laid out plans, it's like you can only plan so much, but you can still, like Andrea said, Tamara said it, I mean, you still have a process or things that you can follow if whatever plan A didn't happen. So, okay, we'll go back, we'll regroup, talk to our teams, do some brainstorming, have you ever had this happen? How can we, what's the best way to go back to the client and have this discussion? Who do we go to have, again, talking to the right people and really to have that transparent conversation, but then quickly regroup and say, okay, that we didn't accomplish the goal. We're going to reset and let's move forward. So absolutely. Well, we have a handful of other questions, but we are out of time, unfortunately. But thank you all so much. This went by really fast. I know we were all like nervous and anxious, but look how fast it went. So thank you, Tamara, Matt, and Andrea. Loves, hearing all of your feedback and advice and experiences when it comes to CSMs as change champions. We definitely need to coin that and get some t-shirts and all kinds of swag made, because I love it. And thank you all to our wonderful audience and sending in questions. And for those questions we didn't answer, we'll be sure to, I'll get those to the panelists and have you all send out your answers there. So thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Krista, Tamara, Matt, and Andrea. We appreciate that insightful discussion. I loved it. Shout out to Matt, I think. Matt, it's 3 a.m., I think, in Australia, so thanks for staying up with us. Great discussion. It's a pleasure to have you all participate in the event today. Christy, change management. You know what I love about the topic so far, and kudos to your team, is all these skills, soft skills and hard skills that you need as a CSM, but sometimes don't think about improving. And so change management is huge. Right? I mean,
change is hard,
yeah,
right? Let's just say that. And I think what happens is that we go through the motions of being really strong customer success professionals, but we forget about the experience our customers are having within their organizations that are even separate from the relationship that we're having with them as the vendor, right? We're trying to help them adopt this technology, but the change that's happening around that is so much larger, right? And so I think if we start to embrace what that feels like and what it looks like and help guide them, then we're going to be more effective.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I were to think two things that I would add is just the importance of communication and setting expectations. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just communicate. Take them on the journey beforehand. And then over communicate throughout the journey. That would be my tip. Any tips you'd have around change management?
Well, I mean, on the communication point, I would say, in my experience as a professional, customer success aside, that's always where leaders have failed.
Yeah. Is
in the communication, right? The strategy is often really well designed and developed and thoughtful, but then their communication around the execution has always fallen short. And I always say the absence of a story, right? People will create one. Yeah. And so when they don't know why and what's happening, they're going to start to fill their heads with what they think is going on. Yeah. So definitely communication. I would say the other thing to just embrace is, and Andrea talked about this, is bring your team into the process. Yeah. I love that, right? Make people feel, I like to say, people want to feel like change is happening with them, not to them.
Exactly.
So bring them along for that ride. Pull them in, get their feedback, make them feel like they're designing it with you. So that would be my tip.